Hi, okay. My name's Douglas. I work at UTS, and I'm an industrial designer, and I've been fortunate enough to work in the UK and in Hong Kong doing design work, and I have quite a lot of links in China, helping some of the Chinese companies change their products so they're a little more sustainable. That's an interesting task. But I've been at UTS for the last 14 years or whatever, and teaching industrial design, sustainable design is my main area, and I do sort of other things there. So tonight I just want to talk very briefly, if I can, I think I just clicked that. Yes, I did click that. Talk about products and designers, but the first point really to make is just how huge the increase in products has been over the last couple of decades. The number of new products coming onto the market and the volume of products coming onto the market has sort of crept up on us, and I don't think many people have realised just how huge that is. It's partly driven by, of course, the population increase in general throughout the world, but also that there is a rising middle class in China and India that are buying products that never did before. Lots of new technologies, which means there's lots of new products coming onto the market. And of course we've got now much cheaper products than we had. I mean, with these power drills and most of these appliances, you will have noticed yourself how they've gone down in price over the years. They're just so much cheaper. And of course that lowering of price has meant that the value for the person who buys that product is not quite as great. You know, if a thing breaks down, is it worth getting it fixed, or do I just dice it? You know, so all of this has meant that we've got an increasing difficulty with the numbers of products being produced and what happens to them at the end of life. So I want to look just a second or two is to what some of the implications of all this increase is, and then ways in which designers have sort of reacted to that challenge. Oops, goes forward. Mobile phones, well, we all know mobiles, but you know, 2 billion, I mean, that's a hell of a lot of phones if you think of it. It's hard to get your head around some of these figures. But I don't actually, I did a very quick calculation and it came up to that figure of tons of CO2 worldwide. I think it probably could even be more than that. That's just one product, you know. All the numbers of products that we have, they're all made out of material, and they're all increasingly complex, which means that even though they're getting smaller, the footprint for each product is much larger, because the technology that goes into that product, if you imagine the electronics, developing electronics, all the chemicals that are required and all the various materials that go into that electronics compared with gears and various other things in sort of old technology. So the new technology means that to produce a product is taking a hell of a lot more out of the environment than previous, and we've got so many more products. And a lot of it can be actually seen through just the batteries, disposable batteries. Disposable batteries, I think, are just such a huge problem that is certainly not being dealt with in Australia. As far as I know, I mean, I think there are some collection points, but maybe some of you will know better than I will about that. But I think a lot of them end up in dumps, and they've got mercury and everything else in them. And they're increasing in huge volumes. Last figure I could get was in 2006. That's 26 billion of these batteries, and if you think each battery, apart from all the crap it's got in it, sorry, all the things it's got in it, to get the power into that battery and to transport it to you, and then to deal with it at the end of life and all of that sort of stuff, the energy is probably double from the energy that you actually get in the battery itself. So, you know, they're a real problem, and as far as I can see, they're not being properly dealt with yet. And finally, just on this business of the problem of products, you know, most average products don't last a great deal of time. And in fact, many products actually don't get used a hell of a lot. I was surprised to read that a power drill, you know, these battery-powered power drills, the average use they get in a year is about 3 minutes. I mean, it's ridiculous. I think people sort of buy them or get them as gifts or something, thinking that they're going to do some homework or housework or something, and they never get used. So they're all sort of anomalies of that sort. Anyway, there are, fortunately now, life cycle assessment, LCAs. I don't know if you know about LCAs, but that's the tool that we use as designers to look at how to get this cradle to cradle thing. You know, looking at how they're manufactured, where all materials come from, what happens during life, what happens at the end of life, do all the sums, do all the figures, and figure out then how we might be able to improve things. But in the end, it sort of gets down to reducing things like energy, material, and weight. If you can do that, if you're a designer, you know, you're a step ahead. So just by reducing those three things is really good. If you can think about what's going to happen at the end of its life, how it's going to be recycled, and that's not as easy as it might sound. And then you've got the other option, which is reuse in some other form of the product that you can then do something with. So I now want to just show you how some of those three things have been handled by designers in different ways. Recycling. Ideally, when you recycle something, it's really best to try to get value out of each thing rather than just crush it all down and go right back to basics. So if you can reuse a seat, or you can reuse some component in the next model, which you can't really so much in cars, but you can in things like photocopiers and stuff, then that's much better. So if you can design a product so that you can disassemble it really quickly and really cheaply, and then get the source, get all the materials back to their path so that they can be reused or recycled or whatever, then you're a step ahead. So designers are now having to think about how you disassemble the product at the end of its life. And that's a big change, because before you just didn't worry about that. Indeed, if you look at products, 80% of the environmental impact is actually determined in the design phase. You know, the designers decide how much power the thing's going to use. Is the fridge going to leak energy out of its seal, or what's going to happen to it, what materials it's going to be made of, how easy is it going to be disassembled, all of those sorts of things. So so design is incredible. I guess that's just saying design is very, very important in terms of products themselves. The one thing I didn't actually mention was that if you look at housing, transport, products and stuff, products take up about a quarter, that they're responsible for about a quarter of all of the environmental impact. So that there's a fairly large proportion. Right? So of course, you know, if you can get rid of batteries, wind up, and I'm sure you're seeing more of these products on the market now. There's a great variety of wind up. Obviously, it's a torch, but there are radios. I've got a great radio at home that's a wind up, and you know, there are wind-up devices that you can charge your mobiles and all sorts of things on. So, you know, that's a bit of physical effort. You do get a bit tired of doing that, I have to say, but anyway. But they do. The radio, you can wind up for about 2 minutes on a radio, and it'll give you about half an hour. Other devices, this is a device that's being developed at UTS. It captures sunlight on the roof. It's actually just, it looks like acrylic sheet, but it uses nanotechnology, and it takes the sunlight, and if you know acrylic sheet, and you know how the light tends to go to the edge of the sheet, you can collect it at the edge. So if you have 3 primary colours, perspex, you collect the light, you take it down a cable, and you can light rooms in your home or wherever else. Sunlight looks great, looks much better than this sort of light, and it's all for free.